closure. When you listen to the stories of the families who lost loved ones, and we all did, you know, I was here, I lost relatives as well. There's no finality when you can't come together and mourn in that fashion that we're used to or accustomed to in this country, to mourn and to commiserate really with each other, to share our stories, to share our souls and our thoughts. So it was important to come together and do that, and for families to be able to lay a wreath. As you said, the pandemic came 6 months after Dorian, and so that played a lot on what you were able to get done. And so I appreciate the Prime Minister's comments that we're getting there, but we still have a long way to go.
You, as we said at the beginning, were here during the storm. You mentioned it. At what point on that day did you realize this was more catastrophic than any of us could have ever anticipated?
I left this hotel, and this hotel speaks to the indomitable spirit of Abaconians, right?
That's why we're here. That is why we chose this spot.
And that's what I said to the owner the first time I came in here after the storm and saw what he was able to do in such a short period of time. I left this hotel around 10:30, thought I'd take a drive through central Abaco, and I got as far as the primary school, and already there were fallen trees. And so I turned around and said, you know what, let me just go back to the command center and see how we're disposed. And around just after 12, something to 1, I think it was, if memory serves me, you could hear this thing coming whistling like a freight train, right? And you knew you were in for a furious ride. For me, Abaco and Dorian will always be personal. Abaco is my home. My family lives here. A lot of friends and relatives that I grew up with are here. So for me, the burden was heavy. Being the leader on the ground, and I came not for politics, but because I'd spent my life in the military, and in the military, you know, we learn to manage disasters and to respond to emergencies, and so I thought my experience could be lent to help, and I think we saved some lives in the process.
Take us to the moment when it is now clear, and you begin to move around and you begin to come out, understanding what your role was at that point, because now you, as a sitting cabinet minister, as a member of the government, you are the government at this point. What was that moment like in your mind as you started now to conceptualize how bad things were?
In a word, weighty, very heavy, knowing that as the leader on the ground, as a member of the cabinet, as a member of the government, as a member of parliament for North Abaco, people are going to look to you naturally for answers, and you had none to give them. So the only thing you could do in the moment personally was to try and console people as best you could. You saw palpable fear in the eyes of people that you knew and loved. There were people saying, you know, this one is missing, that one is missing. And they'd come regularly to say, you know, what are we going to do? And this storm sat on Abaco for what seemed like about 38 hours. And so in the eye of the storm, we got some reprieve, and we were able to get some more people into the command center, which is a government complex. It was a godsend, because you could hear literally tornadoes coming in and leaving, and you could feel the building shake and the pressure would leave the rooms. And so it was weighty, Jerome. It was an experience that I would never, ever forget. You know, I got a call from my brother at one point who was rescuing people, and I said, look, this is no time to be on the streets, get home. I didn't say it to him as kindly as that, but you know, but it was a very, very weighty experience for me.
The chaos that with people trying to leave the island, the missing people, even the reports of the looting and criminal activity, we got a sense that there was just absolute chaos and people had lost control. And I keep going back to that point. Was it that bad?
It was bad. There's no other way to say it. After catastrophic events like Dorian, you saw the same thing in New Orleans. You saw a similar occurrence, and I think it was Martinique, and other places in the world where you have these events. Human instinct kind of kick in, and everybody is about survival. And so there was the looting. And there was, me against the world, that type of attitude. And you tried to settle people down, to give them the sense that, yeah, we're in a little trouble here, but all is not lost. We just need some time to come through this dark period.
Looking back, what do you think could have been done differently? I know, we all say in hindsight, we should have done this, but looking back, what do you think could have been done differently in those ensuing days?
I think about this question often, and a reporter, I believe, from ABC News asked me, what could you have done differently? I said to him, and I'll say this to you, not facetiously, but honestly. I said, unless you had built structures that were prepared to go into outer space and absorb the pressures of outer space, I don't know that we could have done anything differently to prepare. I went into the irregular communities personally with Creole speakers and begged and pleaded with people to leave. I remember on that afternoon before, the Prime Minister flew into Abaco and begged people to leave. When you're used to dealing with these events and you think this one will be just like the other ones that we've had, people have a tendency to relax a little. I think Dorian has changed our generation. I hope for the best. But we have to put in place laws now to force people to evacuate, to leave areas that we know are precarious. Because Dorian came in on a king tide. There are reports of seas as high as 19 to 20 feet. And so it is almost impossible to survive if you're directly south of the public dock and the harbor, which is where these irregular communities were. And so all of the containers and debris that were not tied down were forced and pushed. And you saw water, if you visualize where the government complex is, imagine water walking up that little slope, that little incline, to very high levels where you couldn't pass. I mean, the sea came ashore.
Your administration took a lot of criticism in the days following the hurricane as well, I think in the months and the weeks even. Looking at that, if you could, what do you think could have or should have been done differently, even from a government perspective?
After the storm, we had a lot of help. Our government allowed for, I think at one point there was something like 1,500 NGOs that came in. No country, no country is able to respond to an event such as Dorian without the assistance of outside help, because you're undone. It's traumatic, and we simply didn't have the resources, and that's why our relationship with the United States of America is so very important. Hours after, it seemed like minutes after they were cleared to land, choppers were coming in and medevacing people.
A common complaint I heard, and even now people will say, well, we got help from this group or that group, but we never saw our own people. We never saw our government.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too. I suppose that's their perspective, their view of it. But I think the government of the Bahamas did all it could in the moment, given the circumstances that we faced.
Now, one of the themes that has resonated with me in my time here and preparing for this show, so many people have said to me, we did not and do not have the mental health care that we need. There are so many people who are still living with this trauma and they have not gotten and are asking for help.
When I stayed here after the storm for about 7 or 8 days, surrounded by a lot of people that I know and love, and they all were looking at me and asking, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? And I said to my brother David, I said, it's time for me to leave. Take me to the airport. He said, well, what about your bag, right? I said, send it. I just got to go and get back to the cabinet table to do my job and to let them know, because I was the foreign minister, mind you. I had to be speaking to the world. And so a lot of people were concerned that where's the foreign minister? But I said all that to say this. I went home to my house in Nassau with my wife and kids, and I was a different person. for a few days, yeah, maybe a few weeks, because of the traumatic effects. And a lot of us were traumatized and didn't even realize it. And so a lot of us didn't get the help. A lot of Abaconians didn't get the help. The mental, I mean, we were tough people, right? And we have this tendency to believe that we can overcome anything, but these traumatic events really play an impact on it. I'm happy to see the government is doing a mental health bill that will perhaps assist us. But one of my pet peeves is the fact that we need to be able to get a holistic approach to how we treat with mental illness, not you know, in the Bahamas in general, but in Abaco and Grand Bahama in particular, because this is hours and hours of not knowing, you know.
And then to see, you know, you talk to people about having survived what they've been through, losing family members, losing homes, having to start over. It's just so much that they are dealing with. Compounding all of this, as you mentioned, 6 months in, we had COVID.
6 months in, you have COVID, so the people that are here helping you, they have to leave. They're going to get out of the country because, you know, when COVID came, we didn't have a cure. There was no vaccine. We had to manage COVID in a way, I believe, to mitigate an overrun on our public healthcare facilities. The two tertiary hospitals that we have, the two hospitals that we have, one in Grand Bahama and one in Nassau. So it was a very, very difficult time, Jerome. I hear people say, you know, the winds were constant at 180. Those winds came in gusts at, well, over 200 at times, right?
And you know, we had a discussion about that.
In a house? Can you imagine someone in a car?
200 miles.
Yeah. I spoke with someone who said he had sworn that he was in Manawa Channel because he found safety in a car with his family. And the car was just floating and floating. So he thought he'd perhaps gone out to sea. There are a lot of stories like this.
One of the areas of contention was the burial of the dead. The fact that these individuals were in containers for over a year and they were buried. People didn't have an opportunity to participate. There was even a protest. Why was that handled that way?
It's not, I don't think it's entirely true that they didn't have an opportunity to participate. There was a crowd at the burial of about 20, 25 persons with placards, but family members were allowed to come up to the burial site and to view the burials. It was a very emotional time for all of us. Of course, you don't know where your loved one is. These people are not identified because we had to take samples for DNA and tag them with the sample number. These things happen in disasters.
But why the delay in the burials? I think that is what people were just so horrified.
I wondered myself why there was such a long delay in the burials.
So this was out of your hands?
Well, it was in the hands of the government of the Bahamas. So I was a part of the government of the Bahamas. So, you know, we wanted them buried. Abaconians wanted their loved ones buried.
So that was beyond you. Sir, we're getting ready to wrap up in just a bit. Going forward, what do you think is needed now? We're at the 3-year mark. We have a new administration that's been in for a year. Very critical of you and your government while they were in opposition. But what is needed now for Abaco to continue this progress?
The number one priority, I believe, for our island is housing. The more we have access to homes or to proper places to stay, the more people will return home. We still have a lot of Abaconians outside of Abaco. Quite a number in Eleuthera and elsewhere. Quite a number still in New Providence. We have to somehow make housing available at a cost recognizable for people who've been through a disaster, which manifested in the loss of everything that they owned, right? And so you had some business people right within the central Abaco community who were probably older in life and decided, you know, I'm going to retire in Spanish Wells or somewhere else and not reopen this business. And so we need to find a means and mechanism to provide housing for people in Abaco. And I think in East Grand Bahama as well. I also want to say this. I also think that the way we do hurricanes in the Bahamas with administrators who seek to manage these events with their local support of the various government agencies, I think that's a thing of the past. It ought to be. I believe we need professional emergency managers to come in even after, or if they can come in before, fine, right? If you can find a safe place to be before, fine to come in. And I also think we need dedicated hurricane shelters. You know, the one that we're building and the government is continuing with in Central Pines now is one that we got $1 million from India. I was in New York in September 2019, and Narendra Modi, I think was Prime Minister, he donated $1 million because he thought it could help us build resilience. We need dedicated, these days of keeping people in churches and schools, and because I saw in Dorian, immediately these places, most of them were compromised.
Not safe, yes.
Were compromised, they were not safe. And thank God Dorian came a day, because had it been night, I fear we would have lost far more citizens than we did.
Senator Henfield, an awful time indeed, but thank you for coming and speaking with us. We see the progress. We wish the island well. And thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jerome. Thanks for having me. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to God for the opportunity. And you heard that in the service today, a sense of gratitude from Abaconians is still, you know, with the strength to give God praise despite what we went through. And that's good for us.
Abaco, 3 years.
All right, well, we will be back with more Dorian 3 years later, live from Abaco in just a moment.
Neighbor?
Doing okay?
I don't know if I should call the police or call myself a cop.
Tough questions.
This is the 7th time this airborne freight cargo services van being crossed the road by the neighbor.
I have
12
no
times last month. Something can be right over there.
Grammy, they order them stuff because airborne freight and cargo service is reasonable, and they have a short cost for
Little boy, you said to go on people's business. Neighbor, I hear she got a shop, but she still got audacity to be using my current. I guess he was the conk.
Airborne Freight and Cargo Services. Call them today or visit them on Facebook at Ship Airborne.
In 2019, Abaco and Grand Bahama experienced a natural disaster that made world history. A Category 5 hurricane. In its wake, 74 people were dead and over 200 missing. Many lost everything they owned, having to rebuild their lives while emotionally broken. On the Record is heading back to see how Bahamians have picked up the pieces of their lives. Tune in to On the Record September 1st and 8th as our team explores Dorian 3 years later.
What makes us experts? Every bite. And while it's impossible to know how many there have been in KFC's history, each one of them is crucial. Because our secret travels from mouth to mouth. And we know that the first bite will never be the last. Kentucky Deluxe Chicken Sandwich, a triple breaded chicken breast, premium mayo, pickles, lettuce, tomato, and cheese on a buttery brioche bun. All our chicken expertise in a sandwich. Kentucky Deluxe Chicken Sandwich, only at KFC Nassau.
Or a loved one under medical care? Do you need affordable medical supplies? Ports International is the largest home healthcare supplier. Medical supplies at the very best price, and you can even shop online. From hospital beds to wound care, wheelchairs to walkers, Ports is a one-stop shop for your medical supplies, and we accept insurance. We have online shopping and 2 locations to serve you, at the Airport Industrial Park and Shirley Street. We also ship to the Family Islands. Shop online and visit us on Facebook. Call Ports at 377-1771. Are you or a loved one under medical care? Do you need affordable medical supplies? Ports International is the largest home healthcare supplier. Medical supplies at the very best price, and you can even shop online. From hospital beds to wound care, wheelchairs to walkers, Ports is a one-stop shop for your medical supplies, and we accept insurance. We have online shopping and 2 locations to serve you, at the Airport Industrial Park and Shirley Street. We also ship to the Family Islands. Shop online and visit us on Facebook. Call Ports at 377-1771.
This is On the Record. We are live from Marsh Harbor, Abaco. Tonight we are remembering the victims and looking at the progress 3 years after Hurricane Dorian. This storm didn't only leave behind a significant death toll and unspeakable damage, the price tag totaling some $3.4 billion for the Bahamas. The road to recovery has been long and painful. Our next guest is a part of that ongoing effort. Island Administrator Donald Roll. Sir, welcome to On the Record.
Thank you, Jerome. It's a pleasure to be here.
So $3.4 billion between Abaco and Grand Bahama. We also know that there were a lot of complaints. Many felt that they were forgotten by the then government. Where are we now, 3 years after Dorian? It's been a change in administration, but what is the consensus on the island now?
Jerome, the consensus are that there have been many great strides, especially in the last 6 to 8 months. We now have the DRA, who's up and operational. We also have introduced to Abacos for assistance to those who have lost and need repairs to their home. The urban renewal, they are here. We have 3 organizations along with 1 or 2 NGOs who are still here assisting people with regards to restoring their homes and businesses here in Abaco.
What would you say really continues to be the biggest need? I mean, our previous guest talked about the need for housing. Is housing as critical a need, and what else does this island need on the road to recovery?
But the most important thing is housing. I think housing, like the Minister and Senator Henfield said previously, housing is our biggest challenge in Abaco. And as we continue to rebuild and try to rebound from Hurricane Dorian, I think our infrastructure is challenging us also. And I think until we get all of those infrastructures in place, then we'll see Abaco getting back to normal as pre-Hurricane Dorian.
Mm-hmm. What about the return of businesses? Now, I've seen a lot of businesses that have come back, some new ones. I see construction of some businesses. How is the business community doing?
I think business community is growing. I think we are not as at that point where we were before post-Hurricane Dorian, but I think it opened up the mindset of entrepreneurship. And I think from my office, you can see a lot of home-based businesses. I think the home-based businesses and those who are mobilization on the road, mm-hmm. you have seen an increase in that.
How difficult has it been managing this recovery through COVID?
It's been a challenge. It's been a challenge because, we were locked down. You couldn't get anything done. The construction and everything was just locked down. So it was a great challenge to the people of Abaco during the pandemic.
Shortly after the storm, there were concerns with the level of criminal activity. People were concerned. There were reports that there was some looting going on and some criminal activity. On the crime side, how are things now? I mean, do you still have instances or have things really settled?
Things have settled down. I think according to the Chief Superintendent of the police here in Abaco, we have seen at least about 23 to 30% decrease in crime here in Abaco. So mm-hmm. things have been settled.
Overall, the economy, I know we talked about businesses, but in terms of getting the economy back on its feet, I mean, we're sitting here in the Abaco Beach Hotel, one of several properties that are open and seeing tourists, but I know you rely heavily on that tourist dollar, but how is the economy coming?
I think the economy is coming around. You can see an increase, like you said, the Abaco Beach Hotel, and not only the Abaco Beach Hotel is back to normal, we have the Baker's Bay is making great strides. We have the Winding Bay, who was least affected, is doing well. And there's a lot of business, like I said before, is opening, new businesses opening, so that they are making contribution to the economic impact of this island. In
a little bit, we're going to have a segment on the Keys and what's happening, but we visited one key in particular, but the Keys sometimes tell a different story than mainland Abaco. So if you could talk to us about the recovery, because from what we've been able to see, the recovery on the Keys has moved along a lot faster.
Yes, I think because of their relationship with second homeowners, you're seeing the Keys have taken off quite faster than mainland Marsh Harbor. I think a good example of that is the Hope Town and mm-hmm. the Green Turtle Key, who has a relationship with foreign investors and foreign homeowners that assists greatly in the restoration and repairs to homes and their communities.
Mm-hmm. And I know we sort of touched on this at the beginning, but from where you sit, what are the things that you would like to see happen over the next 2 to 3, 5 years on this island?
Well, the most important thing is to find the housing needs, or to satisfy the housing needs, because when we look at, we need more teachers, we need more policemen, we need housing for those persons, and we also need, like I said before, the infrastructure in terms of power, water, internet services. Those amenities go hand in hand with the development and the future of our islands.
Let's talk a little bit about opportunity. I know there's always opportunity, but what kinds of businesses and services are needed on the island? Let's say I'm a young Bahamian looking to start a business, or I have a business and I want to expand. What kinds of businesses and things do you think are needed here that really can make it?
Well, I think that the construction business now is one of the fastest growing business here in Abaco, especially after Hurricane Dorian. But I think when we look to the future, we look to technology, we look to the medical field, and I think those type of business that the average Bahamian are not venture into, I think that will be a plus for the island of Abaco.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you would have heard the suggestion made in the last segment about professional emergency managers having to deal with that. Do you think that's something we deal with hurricanes? Do you think that's something that we need to move towards, to have more, whether they're professionally trained or we bring people in to help, but do you think we need more emergency managers?
I think so, and I agree with Senator Henfield. I think as we move forward in the global market, and especially with global warming, with regards to the administrators had the NEMA, or operate as a NEMA leader here in the island. And because of his portfolio with regards to his office, there isn't sufficient time and there isn't sufficient training to properly manage and prepare our people for hurricane and natural disasters.
Donald Roll, thank you so very much. I have to commend you for the work that you have been doing since the storm. I know you've been on the ground. We've talked a couple of times.
Yes.
In all of my travels here, so I know the work that you've been doing. So thank you so very much, and keep up the good work. The people of Abaco and the people of the country appreciate your efforts and the work that you do. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well, our special from Abaco, Hurricane Dorian 3 years later, continues right after this break.
You know that feeling you get when you have an uncontrollable desire for fried chicken? That's the KFC, a substance that stimulates your senses to identify the aroma of our secret recipe, or an extra crispy crunch from any distance. It's invisible to the naked eye, but you can feel it traveling throughout your body, taking control so you can enjoy a juicy bite of KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
Doctors Hospital is proud to announce the launch of our infusion center. This center is available for patients in need of IV hydration and nutrition therapy, blood products, long-term antibiotics, and specialized medicines for a spectrum of diseases including rheumatology, dermatology, gastroenterology, and endocrinology. We provide quality, highly specialized care, seamless medication approval through our pharmacy and registration services, a safe and comfortable environment, cost-saving benefits with copay waived on medications for insured LAMP members, payment plans for the uninsured, and immediate access to emergency services. We're located at the Luton Building on Daswell Street. For more information, contact us at 242-302-3323 or email us at infusioncenter@doctorshosp.com.
Hey, it's your boy Charlie Bahama here, and you're just in time for the soccer game. That's football to my English friends. Did you know that you can get the Premier League exclusively on the Rush channel? The Premier League is super exciting with all your favorite soccer teams like Tottenham Hotspurs, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Manchester United, not to be confused with Manchester City. And soccer is the world's most favorite sport and quickly becoming popular here in the Bahamas. So go sign up now. The Liverpool-Arsenal game's about to start.
so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
And you're watching On the Record. We are coming to you live from Abaco. Tonight we are focusing on Dorian 3 years later. This anniversary is about those who survived it. Unfortunately, there are so many who didn't make it, while others tell of near-death experiences. Christopher and Paulette Nesbitt, in their own words, recall their harrowing experience.
I was looking for something just simple. Little rain, little thunder, little water, and pass. But apparently it didn't happen like that. At about, give and take, between 9 and 10 a.m. in the morning, we had a heavy wind just pick up. The breeze blowing, you know, we're sitting inside, say, well, it's just something simple for now. But it started to get a little rough. Wind started to blow extra hard, the rain started, then we had lightning, we had thunder, and then the debris started to hit, you know, the house. And eventually, about an hour after that, tornado started. Debris were flying all over the place. The house roof felt like it just wanted to blow off. And first time in my life, I've experienced a house breathe like a human. It's like in and out, inhale and exhale. It felt like the house was expanding and coming back together. And I said to them, I say, this ain't looking good. This ain't looking good. Debris were hitting this house as if there were accidents, you know, like crashes or whatever have you. Trees were blowing about, we had coolers, we had rooftops. I mean, everything was happening.
I can't swim that well. He said to me, Paulette, you have to stay afloat. You have to stay afloat. That time my son, he can swim, so he's trying to keep me, you know, focused. And all I am seeing is the thickness of the rain, just the thickness of the rain, the thunder, the lightning. And one spell, he said, let me swim to the back, because he had a boat and the buoys and stuff we had hanging in one of the trees that was there. He went to get a buoy so that I could have been able to float. Mind you, we're in the elements still. Man, listen, the water started to churn again and that buoy went right from underneath me and I went under. He came to me, he got me up. He said, Paulette, you gotta stay afloat, man. You have to stay afloat. And the thing is, I'm like, how do you expect for me to stay afloat with all of this going on? I'm scared. What really got me was when he said, God, if you're gonna take one, you gotta take all. Don't leave none of us. And that was what really got me to, like, you know, okay, Paulette, you gotta stay afloat. You hear what your son just said? One spell he got separated from me. And I'm trying to stay afloat. And I only heard the piercing scream when he said, Daddy! I knew something was wrong. Excuse me. I thought he was gone. And Chris went Chris got him. So that left me strangling for myself. I went under a third time. And when I went under, I said, God, if this is how I'm supposed to go, I'm ready, that's it. When I went under that third time and I said what I said, I literally felt two hands at the bottom of my feet push me up out of the water, and I came up right in front of one of the palm trees that's in the yard out there. That one is no longer there, because the ones that are there now, they were much smaller. And as I came up, I grabbed the tree. I thought it was him. Lo and behold, it was not him, because him and Taylor was so far down the way, I could hear them calling for me. And I said, I'm here, but we were so far apart. So he said, we have to get out of here and get to safety. So everybody was there, he took us, he said, anyway, we're gonna go up to the front. We had to swim right back through the same water, got out to the main road where you came in. When I looked down the road, the people were coming like ants. It was like,
Judgment Day.
I could not begin to describe that. Wow. People were coming from everywhere. There were people who hardly had on clothes. There were women with babies. Listen to me. That Pastor Steve said as we ran out into his family, their house was gone. He said, where are you all going? I said, we don't know where we're going. He said, come with me, because he was a part of the team that was rescuing people and stuff. So he ended up taking us over to the government complex. Listen, that was a safe haven, and the government clinic. But there were so many people. When I passed, that's when the horror began. We were on the ground for at least almost 2 weeks before we can actually leave the island. We slept in here as it was. Yes, sir. We came in, we cleaned up a space.
Right here in the front room.
The mud, what was in here, what was outside was inside, what was inside was outside.
You slept in here?
We slept in here, on the floor.
Broken windows, open ceiling.
Mosquitoes,
roof. Certain portions of the roof were damaged, I mean, we had to fix it in a way where the outsiders don't come in and intrude.
In 3 years, we've come a long way in a short space of time, because looking at the logistics of it, people were saying give and take 10, 15 years to bounce back. But one thing I must say about Abaconians, they will put their hands to the wheels to get whatever needs to get done.
Harrowing tales indeed. Well, let's take a break here. This is Dorian. 3 years later, you're watching On the Record live from Abaco.
Got wireless dead zones at your house? How about endless buffering? Will you put the Wi-Fi password again? This is Aero. Aero is not just a new Wi-Fi router. Rev customers get the first Wi-Fi system that covers every inch of your beautiful home, improving home coverage, higher speeds, high performance, and connectivity for up to 75 simultaneous devices. Aero. So while you're streaming your favorite show on HBO Max, Aero with Rev gives you the freedom to stay connected while you work, learn, and play at home. Never think about Wi-Fi again with Aero from Rev. Visit rev.bs/Aero or call 601-8992 to make your Wi-Fi wishes come true.
At Doctors Hospital, our lamp just got brighter. The Loyalty Advantage membership program now has 3 unique plans to choose from. From Lamp Prepaid with free prime care visits and service line discounts, Lamp Insured with copay waivers and zero upfront collections at the ER and inpatient services, or our new Lamp Access, a free plan that offers 10% off lab, pharmacy, and imaging. Lamp has a plan for everyone. To sign up, visit our website or give us a call. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now.
I don't know if I should call the police or call myself a conk. This is the 7th time this airborne freight and cargo services van being crossed the road by the neighbor. 12 times last month. Something can't be right over there.
Grammy, they order them stuff because airborne freight and cargo service is reasonable and they have a short cost for
Little boy, you said to go on people's business. Mabel, I hear she got a shop, but she still got audacity to be using my current. I guess he was the conk.
Airborne Freight and Cargo Services. Call them today or visit them on Facebook at Ship Airborne.
Well, we are back. Tonight's broadcast is coming to you live from the Abaco Beach Hotel in Marsh Harbour. This area, in many ways, was the epicenter of the storm. The middle of Marsh Harbour became a graveyard for so many, some of whom remain unnamed and, in some cases, unrecognized. The carnage in the Haitian community here exposed a decades-old problem that, in some ways, remains unsolved.
Progress towards recovery, there is one community that is gone forever. The predominantly Haitian community, known as the Mud and Pigeon Peas, wiped out by Dorian. It would take months of clearing and removing of the debris to finally remove this disastrous and painful sight. Crews worked non-stop, often finding more bodies as they got deeper and deeper. These days, though, the area is an empty space of overgrown weeds and bushes, surrounded by fences and barbed wire. Meanwhile, the former residents never returned.
After Dorian, a number of persons left, including persons of Haitian extraction, but some remained. Some of their employers sheltered them at their workplaces and other places until they could find their way. What has happened in the year or two and this third year is that many of those persons have found other communities to develop. Other irregular communities are developing off of the main roads, main highways. There's still a presence at the farm, and I think there may be a few people left at Sandbank. But in Marsh Harbour, Murphytown, Dundastown area, new communities are springing up. And the, how should I put it, the delicate, unsaid, unstated reality is that a lot of Bahamians are facilitating this.
We discovered many of the displaced Haitians have found homes in new communities, some unregulated, while they find work in a recovery zone in desperate need of labor.
In the aftermath, many people were unemployed, couldn't find work. And if you had tenuous status, documentation was lost, it was even more difficult. So a lot of those communities sprang up out of necessity, because right now in Abaco, in the main part, to rent an apartment could rent a minimum of $1,500 first and last, plus first and last. If you haven't been working for 3 years, that's an impossibility. So the communities have sprung up and are prospering. A lot of the economy of Abaco depends on those persons whose status may not be clear. I have to add, however, that part of this unspoken reality is that there are Bahamians who live in these communities. In the past, we've discovered persons from Cat Island, from Andros, from Grand Bahama, from Bimini, living in these irregular communities. Bahamians, true. Bahamians living in those communities. So it's not only persons of Haitian ancestry and extraction.
But not everyone of Haitian heritage is living or working illegally. Many here are naturalized, living productive lives, who also found themselves homeless after Dorian. They are now returning.
It's really good for me to be back in Abaco. When I come in back, look like I found the heaven. And that's a heaven for me to be in Abaco. And Abaco people, we are living outside Abaco.
Right.
And the Haitian, like I say again, we can make it everywhere we go. And if you could speak, we touch anything. We could work for you, or you helping us, any dollar is surviving.
We have a lot of the Haitian people who lived in the mud and pigeon peas gone. Where have they moved to? Because all those homes were destroyed. Where have they gone?
That everybody was trying to make it, so everybody paid the rent. We pay the rent, and they find some place to rent. Some people, they wasn't make it good, but you know, when you have a children, especially now, when we're in Abaco, that's a home. That's home. We really love to be in Abaco.
So you think a lot of them stayed here?
Some of them stay here, some of them stay in another island. And some people still in Nassau if they can't find no place to move back in Abaco.
Abaco home. There is a genuine affection for the island and their way of life here.
Yeah, it's getting better because Abaco is look different now, but for me, I was no Abaco. For me, that's my Abaco. I remember all my areas in Abaco. But some people who don't know Abaco who come here, they was never know the first Abaco. But that's a second Abaco now. But I love it.
Have you moved back into your house yet?
No. My house where I was living, I was renting, but that can't fix. That don't fix because when I was in the house, the roof was going over our head, and my husband was fighting to survive for children. So it's just things that.
Almost a year to the day, 1 year before Dorian on the record went into what was then the largest Haitian community in Abaco. And while that community no longer exists, the same problems of unregularized migrants remains a nagging national problem, unresolved by successive governments.
Our Constitution says that if they were born in the Bahamas, they're entitled to citizenship upon applying at the age of 18. Right? That demographic has been a dysfunctional, demographic of our society that breeds antisocial behavior, and until we have to have a handle on that as well to sort of minimize the antisocial behavior we see around. So we have to look at that, and we are trying to identify where the migrants are to determine whether they are to be regularized or whether they are here, and they need to be repatriated.
Indeed, an age-old problem that persists. Amidst all the death, damage, and destruction, a beacon of light shone bright. The Alive Network was kept secure by a brilliant and possibly unsung technical team. Their efforts helped to potentially preserve many lives and kept a devastated community in touch with the world.
Just days before Hurricane Matthew in 2016. While the experience prepared the cellular service provider for operating in a hurricane belt, they never could have predicted what role they would come to play 3 short years later. Just days before Dorian arrived, 2 technicians were flown here to Abaco to ride out the storm. They could not have imagined the heroes they would become.
This whole area was basically underwater, so they had to put that form around the door to keep water from entering. They also had to manpower the door, just trying to keep it closed so the wind and the elements didn't get on the inside. Wasn't for that, I'm sure we would have lost this building, loosened the network and everything else. I'm sure we would have lost everything, all of the equipment, and everything would have been lost, leaving us dead in the water for Abaco. We were able to fly in as soon as the all clear was given. We were able to fly in technicians, fiber techs out of Nassau. Wherever the network was compromised, they were able to jump on that and actually get those fibers spliced as soon as possible so that we remain connected. Our competitor, BTC, they lost the entire system, they lost the entire network, and the only thing that the Abaconians had at the time was alive. So we had to maintain, keep that service going for people to communicate with family, friends, and otherwise, you know, to let people know exactly what had happened.
After some immediate network stabilization happened and staff were looked after, the cable group of companies then started repairing the cable and internet infrastructure, vital in getting this island back on its feet.
When we came down to do the assessment, we realized that Central Abaco, the keys, treasure key, all those were just a total loss. So we had to actually wait on BPL until they would have restored power poles for us to rebuild our network. A lot of the businesses that is coming back to the island now, they are looking for internet, reliable internet, and so we are basically doing everything we can to make sure that we can get them up as fast as possible.
Since Dorian, the building in Marsh Harbour has double reinforced doors as an extra layer of protection. Wells in between the doors are also designed to catch and discard flood waters. Again, using the lessons of a major storm to prepare for the future.
Of course, we would be remiss if we did not recognize those technicians who selflessly stayed behind and kept the network up during the storm. Thank you to Keith Lightbourne, Trevor Cuffey, and Ian Pinder. The country indeed owes you a debt of gratitude. Well, stay with us. We are going to take a quick break and come back with more right after this.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches. Fidelity, we're good for
you. Got wireless dead zones at your house? How about endless buffering? Will you put the Wi-Fi password again? This is Aero. Aero is not just a new Wi-Fi router. Rev customers get the first Wi-Fi system that covers every inch of your beautiful home, improving home coverage, higher speeds, high performance, and connectivity for up to 75 simultaneous devices. Aero. So while you're streaming your favorite show on HBO Max, Aero with Rev gives you the freedom to stay connected while you work, learn, and play at home.
Never think about Wi-Fi again with Aero from Rev. Visit rev.bs/Aero or call 601-8992 to make your Wi-Fi wishes come true.
Are you or a loved one under medical care? Do you need affordable medical supplies? Ports International is the largest home healthcare supplier. Medical supplies at the very best price, and you can even shop online. From hospital beds to wound care, wheelchairs to walkers, Ports is a one-stop shop for your medical supplies, and we accept insurance. We have online shopping and 2 locations to serve you, at the Airport Industrial Park and Shirley Street. We also ship to the Family Islands. Shop online and visit us on Facebook. Call Ports at 377-1771.
We're happy to bring you this special edition of On the Record tonight, live from Marsh Harbor, Abaco, as we recognize the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Dorian's landfall here. Now, the Abaco Keys are absolutely breathtaking, and many build second homes here to be a part of that picturesque beauty. Dorian was not a respecter of the Keys at all. But 3 years later, those Keys are bouncing back.
Elbow Key, home of Hopetown, one of the most famous and loved tourist destinations on the island. It also took a direct hit from Hurricane Dorian 3 years ago. Here's a look back to September of 2019.
The Hopetown Lighthouse, an internationally recognized iconic symbol, stands as a testament to a community still standing, but all around there is destruction. At the main dock, the Hopetown Harbor Lodge, once a welcoming sight to arriving residents and visitors, is now a symbol of the massive destruction here. The hotel is a wreck. On other parts of the island, heavy equipment is clearing and cleaning debris. Given the size of the key and the equipment, there is a delicate balance between necessity and safety. There is massive erosion as well, making the cleanup dangerous at times. Many of the elevated structures no longer have firm foundations. Every step is a potential risk.
We helped them out, we got them up and running. Thank God for that. And you know, we was helping out lifting boats for 12 days. And the mess, we worked on roofs. I had a bunch of volunteers with me. And as you know, the other Spanish Wells fleet, we had like 7 or 8 fishing boats, you know, evacuating people out. But it was a real touching experience.
This once vibrant second home community and favorite among tourists was left in rubble. But the cleanup and restoration began immediately. 3 years on, this is a much different place.
I can remember not being able to stand here because there was so much debris. Boats and buses and minibuses and golf carts and trucks and just things stacked up on top. Trees, absolutely no vegetation. And fast forward to today, I look at beautiful green, indigenous grapes bouncing back, coconut trees that have been brought in from other parts of the Bahamas. I see nothing but progress and sensational forwardness. It's been a quick 3-year period, but it's also been a very productive 3 years. So much love and feeling for this place that it is testimony to resilience.
What do you think has been the driving force behind the quick recovery?
Second homeowners, people that love the secret sauce here, the specialness of the community, pulling out their wallets, paying for things to be repaired, fixed, purchased, sold. All of that mixed in gives us a really great outcome.
It's led to a construction and economic boom here.
I've never seen anything like it. I've been around a long time, and it's interesting. I think there's a lot of liquidity in the world, and there's a lot of people in the world that understand this is a very special spot. And that has helped also, because after the storm we had a pandemic and people were cooped up, and they realized that get your family, play on the beach, enjoy the water like no other, and you know, be on an island relatively close to the US, but a million miles away.
Canadian Andrew Cudmore is one of many second home owners here, responsible in part for that construction boom. A recently purchased family home is being renovated.
My first time coming back was probably just a year after Dorian, where there was still a lot to be done and a lot of rebuilding going on. And as a second homeowner, I've been coming here, you know, every couple months since then, and it's been incredible to see how the community's been rallying around and really rebuilding the properties, rebuilding the infrastructure, and just seeing a tremendous amount of growth and redevelopment here from, you know, 2 years ago into present day.
What is it about Hopetown that keeps bringing you back that you love so much that you're building all
and expanding your home.
Yeah, I mean, rather than giving you the big laundry list of everything that we love about Hopetown, I'll say to you what I tell everyone. So I first came here to really enjoy the scenery and the island life. What brings me back every single, almost month now, is the community and the people. That's what brings me back here.
But in the days after Dorian, things were hard here. The Hopetown Primary School, like so many others, was out of commission. The immediate concern, though, was the safety of the children here.
After the hurricane, the priority was to get as many children off the quay as possible. The conditions here were inhospitable. We relocated a number of families to Nassau. Some even went to the United States or even beyond. Those that were not able to relocate or could only relocate for a short time came back as soon as possible. By December, we had opened one room in the school. With donations and volunteers, we were able to fix that one room up and have as many children as we could back at the school right away. We had no power, so we ran on a generator just to have water and fans, and we used an internet box, and we were able to house 25 primary school students in the classroom with 2 teachers sharing that responsibility, and we were able to also facilitate 8 high school students on our deck as they were doing their virtual classes.
Before they could re-establish the school fully, COVID-19 hit. This September will be the first time in 3 years they will have in-person learning in a fully refurbished school.
The restoration of the school is a key part to bringing this community and any community back to its previous state and to move it beyond into the future. The school is the heart of the community. This year we anticipate some 58 students returning, which brings most of the families back to the island. In rebuilding the school, we had gracious private donations to rebuild the school. We were fortunate to restore the original section, which is one of the oldest schools in the country that's still in operation as a school, built in 1893. Most of that original structure stood firm. So we were able to rebuild that and keep the historic component of the school. And then we were able to add on to that and reinforce that and move towards looking at the future of the community and the country.
You know that feeling you get when you have an uncontrollable desire for fried chicken? That's the KFC. A substance that stimulates your senses to identify the aroma of our secret recipe or an extra crispy crunch from any distance. It's invisible to the naked eye, but you can feel it traveling throughout your body, taking control so you can enjoy a juicy bite of KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
Doctors Hospital is proud to announce the launch of our infusion center. This center is available for patients in need of IV hydration and nutrition therapy, blood products, long-term antibiotics, and specialized medicines for a spectrum of diseases including rheumatology, dermatology, gastroenterology, and endocrinology. We provide quality, highly specialized care, seamless medication approval through our pharmacy and registration services, a safe and comfortable environment, cost-saving benefits with copay waived on medications for insured LAMP members, payment plans for the uninsured, and immediate access to emergency services. We're located at the Luton Building on Daswell Street. For more information, contact us at 242-302-3323 or email us at infusioncenter@doctorshosp.com.
Mabel, I don't know if I should call the police or call myself a conch. This is the 7th time this airborne freight and cargo services van being crossed the road by the neighbor. 12 times last month. Something can't be right over there.
Tommy, they order them stuff because airborne freight and cargo service is reasonable, and they have a short cost
Look
reward.
what you said to go on people business. Mabel, I hear she got a shop, but she still got audacity to be using my current. I guess you was the conk.
Airborne Freight and Cargo Services. Call them today or visit them on Facebook at Ship Airborne.
And you are watching On the Record. We are live at the Abaco Beach Resort tonight. In preparing for this show, we were able to get a glimpse into the work taking place here. For as much as we can, we wanted to bring you the bigger picture of the progress. Here now is Abaco then and now.
This was the scene in Marsh Harbor, Abaco in early September 2019. Images and stories of harrowing experiences flooded the media. No one could have prepared for the destruction that Dorian set upon Abaco. Marsh Harbor looked like a war zone. People were desperately fleeing both the Marsh Harbor and Treasure Key airports. The stench of death filled the air.
What we can do at this point, they need to find a solution to get us off this island, because this island, everything mashed up, dead bodies everywhere. We walking through the water, decomposing. Them bodies in my skin and starting to catch rash. Can't get nowhere, can't get home. Everybody roof messed up.
It was the storm of the century that unleashed a fury unlike anything we had ever seen.
When you look at an island like Abaco, the topography, it's a very flat island. So the major problems that we're going to face with these hurricanes for islands like Abaco are going to be the storm surge. And you're talking about storm surge that easily can be in excess of 20 feet, depending on how the hurricane approached the island. Dorian actually approached Abaco in the worst possible way. It came onto the island out of the ocean from the east, out of deep waters, which means that the hurricane sitting out there for a while, gaining strength, approaching Abaco. It's now being able to sit out there and actually build up storm surge before it approached the island. So once Dorian approached Abaco, that's the worst case scenario that actually took place. You know, engineers have developed ways that they can actually build when it comes to wind. So most of the buildings would have been able to withstand the winds easily. But the water, because of with that strong wind, combination of that heavy water actually pounding those buildings at such a massive speed, there's very little that can actually stand.
Dorian was a really good reminder that even though the forecasts have improved dramatically, they've improved primarily in the track forecasting, you know, where it's going to go. There's still severe limitations on intensity forecasting. On average, the National Hurricane Center does a pretty good job, but what they don't do well is catch that rapid intensification. And that's what happened to Dorian right before it hit here. The computer models don't catch that, and the official forecast doesn't either. And we need to remember that the damage associated with the hurricane, it doesn't go up in a linear fashion as the category of the hurricane increases. It goes up exponentially.
How at all can you prepare for a storm like Dorian, if at all?
Well, you can for the wind. You can build stronger, and we've driven around a lot of areas here in Marsh Harbor, and the houses that kept the roofs on, they were built better. Some of the same lessons learned in Hurricane Andrew. If you don't connect that roof to the foundation, you've got a problem. The windows, the doors will blow in. Usually that happens first, and then the roof acts just like a wing of an airplane. That air gets inside, and the next thing you know, the roof goes off.
On September 7th, the On the Record team hit the ground. As we drove to the area, a local Abaconian warned of the chaos that nightfall could bring.
Tell me what happens at night. People really try to rob you, take your car, you know, stuff like that.
because they can't find a ride. You know, people leaving their cars and stuff, but some people lock their cars up, you know, and carry the keys, but they ain't coming back, really. You understand? So it's horrible.
The gas station?
Yes, sir. What's the gas station? So when we come close to the mud area, they found plenty bodies. Whenever we pass this, picking up the body. This is the mud area.
We drove in as far as we could.
That was 2019. Fast forward to 3 years later. Life has moved on. There are grim reminders, though, of Dorian everywhere. The airport now restored and functional. On that main strip on the drive into Marsh Harbor, the cleanup is done, but the rebuilding is confined to pockets. It's a tale of two cities. As some structures are repaired and remodeled, many others remain untouched and dilapidated. Remember this iconic image?
An astounding sight greets us. A steel hull vessel lodged on the side of the Scotiabank building. Evidence of the power unleashed here.
That vessel is now gone, demolished and carted away. Ironically, one resident says he had hoped it would be turned into a monument, sort of a reminder of what Dorian left behind. The further in you go, the progress is evident, at least in some places. The overgrown area once called the Pigeon Pea in the Mud bears no evidence of the carnage and destruction that once was. The bodies and debris all gone. On September 12, we were flown by U.S. Army helicopter to Marsh Harbor. We accompanied a U.S. aid search team at the Francis de Sales Catholic School. Among the rubble then, a Haitian woman seeking shelter in a dry classroom.
It's gone? Okay. Well, your family?
No, I'm not family.
You have no family?
My family in Haiti.
In Haiti? Yeah. So you're here by yourself?
Yeah.
Today, it's a much different scene. That school is partially repaired, even though a classroom block at the back remains exposed and unused. Life in Marsh Harbor marches on. While commerce and general activities associated with life here have returned, there are signs everywhere of the work unfinished. Storefronts, churches, and other buildings remain in ruin, while new construction moves on around them. Even the occasional moored boat is seen in aerial footage. For Dunmore Town survivor Carrington Woodside, 3 years has left him reeling from loss, the loss of his wife and home.
We are standing on what is, I guess, the foundation for what is about to be your new home. But tell me, where was your original home?
My original home started from this beam here.
Uh-huh.
Went back to about center of that, this column here.
Okay. He recalls how he and his wife were really not prepared to move despite the warnings, a decision he now regrets.
When they said that the storm was coming and it was threatening the Abacos and it was a monster storm, my wife, she took it in stride. She didn't say anything. She didn't tell me or prepared. She didn't prepare nothing. She just went about her normal duties. I don't know what she was thinking because she didn't say nothing to me. And I said, man, you know, the storm is coming. The storm came down that night. When that storm switched up into the northwest and that came through, it came so sudden and it was so ferocious. The only thing we could do was throw a couple of things in the bag. She threw a couple of passports, and I even didn't take, the only thing I took out of my drawer was my wallet. That morning, it got so bad. When the house started to fall apart, first thing happened was the back bedroom. The fan break down out of the roof. Then the water came from up under the ground. It was high tide, it was a flood tide, it was a king tide. It came from up under before it came over the land. And
was only me and her there. And all of a sudden, we ran into the kitchen area, which is located about like over there. It was located like over there. And tornado came from out of the ocean, came right around, and all of a sudden, the house imploded. Blew right apart. Me and I was still in it. And then the water came. At least about 20 feet of water came. Me and I, we wasn't tied together, nothing. And washed both of us out of the house. We were out in the storm, literally in the storm before the flood came over me and my wife. Swimming in the water. And when the eye came over, after everything calmed down for that couple of minutes, I was holding on to a coconut tree. She had the coconut tree was thrown down. And I didn't know where my wife went. Well, she was in the balcony, but I don't know where she went. She disappeared. I called and I couldn't get no answer. I called and I didn't hear nothing. And man, when I think of it, it really hurts. And you know, the anniversary is coming up, and
that was the last time you saw her?
The last time I saw her.
After searching for weeks in the midst of the chaos, this.
They went to the station. After, those police, you know, they was in disarray, and a lot of deaths was up there in Marsh Harbor. And I was running behind them to come and help me look for the body. And they were saying they were doing it in stride. They're coming down in stride. It wasn't until after I left here, went to Nassau, and I started, you know, complaining and going to the various authorities trying to get closure, get my wife from me, because then my nephew, he came back to work. His boss had called him back to work. And when they were cleaning up through the corners, and they started to clean up the debris, they find all the remains right over there, corner there.
3 years later, with no help, he's managed to only get his replacement home up to a foundation, all out of pocket.
The general election was called, and the government changed. And I'm still waiting as it stands right now. The DRA said they're going to do something. I don't know when they're going to do it, but they're promising just like everything else they promise.
And you lost your home, you lost your wife. How do you feel?
I feel, you know, like a motherless child, you know, when you lost your mother. And I lost my mother at the age of 13, breast cancer, and it feels worse than that.
In those tragic days in early September of 2019, the chaos of Dorian stretched far into North Abaco as well. The Treasure Key Airport, badly damaged, could not even provide shelter for the hundreds waiting to be evacuated. The famous Treasure Key Hotel would eventually be demolished. Three years later, the primary school at Treasure Key remains in ruin, now overgrown with bushes. The once tourist-busy airport in Treasure Key is now closed completely to commercial traffic, another Dorian casualty. A few private planes and a trailer show there is some movement here occasionally, but behind the fence with padlocked gates. But there are many of what we call the unseen problems here. Residents tell us there are lots of unregulated workers flown in for weeks at a time on construction projects which could easily be given to Bahamians. With a focus on Haitian migrants, the other nationalities seemingly go unnoticed by the authorities. 3 years later, some ask, where is the plan? What is next for Abaco? And what is the way forward?
We have opened the economy up. There are a number of projects that are about to start, and they can't get off the ground unless people are able to be here. They only could be here if they have a place to stay. So I think priority is housing, and thereafter the continuing growth of the economy. We are happy and pleased that tourism is in a place where it is, particularly in Abaco. Just talking with one of the buses who flew in, they said, the lanes are full, restaurants are busy, and so it is here. It's only now to get workers here, and to get them here, they need to have a place to stay.
So there you have it, folks. We have tried to really give you a glimpse into Abaco 3 years after Dorian. We were scheduled to have the Member of Parliament for Central and South Andros, Mr. John Pinder, as our final guest. He agreed, but did not keep his appointment with us tonight, and so we are unable to provide you his perspective as one of 2 sitting members of Parliament on this island. Needless to say, we want to thank all of those who contributed to tonight's program. The many who assisted us, who provided us interviews, who painstakingly relived that treacherous day 3 years ago. We want to thank this hotel, the Abaco Beach Resort, for providing wonderful accommodations and this space for us tonight, and just being a great host to us. The many, many people here in Abaco and back in New Providence who have helped to make this show possible. To my fantastic production team, I could not do this or be here without them. They have tolerated and put up with me for several days to get us to this point, and I thank them publicly for helping to pull off this production. I would also like to thank you for joining us on this broadcast tonight. This is a story of recovery, and it continues in Grand Bahama next week, so be sure to join us again on Thursday as we come to you from that island as well. Well, as we leave you tonight, though, we have some reflections from a group that's sometimes overlooked, as we are the ones who are telling the stories night after night, day after day. These stories we give you all the time, and sometimes you don't understand the backstory. So my colleagues at RTV are tonight telling their stories in an online piece produced by digital reporter Ricky Barry. So thank you so much for watching, and good night.
You didn't want to be the person to come across a video of someone else's family member.
I was unable to contact my mother, my grandmother, anyone at all. That's when it really started to hit home.
At that point, everyone was in survival mode.
It's been 3 years since Hurricane Dorian, and I've been doing this about 17 years, and even to this day I can say it's been one of the most, or perhaps the most traumatic, depressing, and worst experiences or assignments I've ever had to cover.
Aaron Treasure Key, Abaco, there were scores of people holding on to...
You go there and it just is like, where am I?
First scenes of the Abaco was, horrendous. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was literally like a nuclear bomb drop. Like somebody dropped a bomb and it just went off and just swept the area clean. And there was pretty much water everywhere as far as the eye can see.
Seeing like children's toys and clothing on the floor as well, I was heartbroken. Dead animals, people as well.
What the sick? Boy, they're gone.
Oh my God, it ain't even reached yet.
We were getting a lot of footage. A lot of the content that people were sending in from their phones and wherever they were getting videos from, we had to literally go through each of those videos.
The first few was just people going outside. You would see some guy walking in the rain or the wind saying, hey. But as the night went on and even in the morning,
at that time, you didn't want to be the person to come across a video of someone else's family member.
especially when names started coming in of people who were missing. And a lot of those names were people from East Grand Bahama. And I have family in East Grand Bahama, so there's always that fear whenever there's a new batch of names coming in, and I'm just scanning through the graphics, scanning through the names, trying to figure out if it's somebody I know.
Berthany was a part of another media house. He's from Abaco. His mother works in Marsh Harbor, so we were looking for his mother at the same time.
Which was a complete nerve-wracking experience because you didn't know if she was... I just didn't know.
Megan was in Abaco, and I remember before we lost signal, she just was saying, Natalia, this isn't good. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I think people may be losing their lives. And I was like, what? You know, and she disappeared.
I think it was like the first night the communication went down. I remember just texting like my mom and my cousins and stuff, telling them what was happening, like, this is what's happening in Abaco and what's coming there next, so be prepared for X, Y, and Z. And then it just stopped, and I knew that people were going to be worried. I was worried a little bit as well because I knew other people were afraid of about what was going to happen to them or what was happening to me.
It was a couple of days. It was a couple of days.
When it was all said and done and we got to Nassau on cell phone service, I think he heard from his mother by then, and I heard from my friend by then that she had gotten out.
And she said hello, and I completely broke down in the office. And I cried and I cried and I cried. She's like, why are you crying? And I was like, because I haven't heard from you in like 3 days, and it was killing me inside. I think the impact the hurricane had on my mom in itself has an impact on me.
As we approach the 3, I know it's going to dredge up a ton of memories, some that probably never went away, some that's going to come back on September 1st.
So I don't think there's been enough attention placed on the psychological impact that this hurricane had on so many people who can't deal with when it's raining.
You still see hurt on many faces, but you still see people who they're trying.
They are our heroes. They are our inspiration. You heard the stories about people saving people in Grand Bahama. The same thing happening in Abaco. And I just want to say, you know, stay strong, because I feel like the majority of the Bahamas is behind them.